Hello, my name is Anthony Beavers. I'm the Medical Operations Manager for Haven Defense Group. I've been a military medic since 2005, and in that time, I've had multiple combat tours overseas, multiple tours working with the United States Border Patrol on the Texas Mexico border, as well as a deployment to Eastern Europe to work with and train NATO allies. In my civilian career, I've also worked as a 911 and critical care paramedic, and for a time, I contracted overseas with the Department of State. I was a protective security specialist and team medic with them. My focus has been on medical planning for contingency operations overseas and here in the U.S., as well as training, advising, and assisting local, state, federal law enforcement, providing medical care in atypical hazard scenarios. Today, I will discuss operational medicine, specifically the roles and responsibilities of the operational medic from my perspective. The basis of this presentation is an unpublished paper I wrote that can be purchased from our website should you so choose. My target audience is any medic, nurse, physician, nurse practitioner, PA, who's working on a team that is not solely focused on medical admissions. My goals with this presentation is just to familiarize you guys with the definition and scope of operational medicine as I see it, and give the students some standards by which to be the best version of yourselves in any given environment. I just want you guys to be a good asset to your team, and part of being that is some things we're going to go over here is not just being the medic that's just waiting around waiting for something bad to happen. All right, so jumping into it, operational medicine definition. It's commonly known as tactical medicine. You guys have probably heard tactical medics and whatnot a lot, and we kind of associate those guys with people working with a SWAT team or some type of military team. But I think that that role can be expanded to a lot of different roles, a lot of different mission sets, and it encompasses a range of activities that occurs well before the mission briefing, during the mission, and post-mission activities. The operational medic works on a team whose sole mission is not medical. So some examples I have here are remote scientific research. So you have a guy, say in remote Norway, that's working on a team looking at ice worms up in a glacier. That medic could be there to provide support to that team should anybody come down with frostbite or hypothermia or a fall or something. High risk warrant issuance, so we go to that tactical medic role, and they're there to make sure that if there is an injury on the scene, that they have a good communications with local EMS and get the injured individual to the hospital as soon as possible. And security operations. Like whenever I was working with the Department of State, I was the medic with the team there, and I would usually follow around our principal, the person that we were guarding, and I would be the first person to work on that individual or the team members near me should anything occur. And then we also had medics that were roaming around post as well, and make sure that all the guys are drinking water. And where we were at, it's pretty hot during the summer, so that's kind of the definition I see how a tactical or operational medic works. Why do I want to get away from calling even the guys that are working in the tactical realm tactical medics? I think that it is not really encompassing what that individual does. So it's become a catchphrase. I think it incorrectly describes the activities of what that medic can needs to do to be successful. In the military, we're not called tactical medics. We're called field medics, combat medics, operational medics, operators. So what is tactics but a standardized way to conduct business? So it's really not the best way to call the medic in that role. I think that operational medic is probably the best way to call it. Uh, so to become good at anything, we need to have a good set of values. And I pulled some of these from the Army values, Army NCO. So I believe in that that train of thought that's put upon us in the military. So first thing we'll talk about is integrity. It's the linchpin of your position. If to be integral is to be predictable. Predictability in this realm is good because you want to be that type of person that's going to carry on, and do what he says and how he says he's going to do it. And you'll never inspire the trust and respect of your guys you're working with if you're not like this. And being an operational medic, trust is everything with especially your special operations guys and whatnot. They will not take anyone out that they don't trust. And if you're not predictable and people don't trust that you're going to do or behave in a certain way and under duress, you're not going to be chosen for the team. Selfless service, your job is unending, and you'll have to you'll be put in so much more effort than you're likely to get paid for. If you stick with the bare minimum, you'll never be a great medic. You'll have to be willing to sacrifice a lot of your personal time, getting better at your job and doing the job for the department or your team. A lot of times, whenever I was working as a medic for a team, guys would show up at my room at 2 o'clock in the morning because they cut themselves because they're drinking too much and playing with a knife or something. It was always something stupid. Or they had some bad food and it just didn't hit them until 3 or 4 in the morning. So I was up at 3 or 4 in the morning giving fluids and antibiotics and whatnot as necessary. So you're definitely going to be selfless in this position. If you're not ready to give up, your personal time, you're not going to be very successful as an operational medic. Initiative. No one's going to be on you about your job. So people are going to expect you to know your job. Your supervisor, unless your supervisor was a medic, he or she is not really going to be telling you what to do on a daily basis when it comes to your job. So you're going to have to take the initiative, conduct business for the agency or your team. And that's the reason why I'm going to talk about the roles. This will give you some tools. The roles of operational medic that will give you some tools by which to take the initiative. Professionalism. So again, I'm an Army NCO. I really believe in the Army NCO creed. The first line is no one is more professional than I. I really took this to heart. There's a lot of dumb stuff we say and do in the Army. I believed that there were some aspects to this NCO creed that I really paid attention to. I think this should be one of your mottos. No one is more professional than I. If you're seen goofing off, around, messing around, being unprofessional, even while off duty, you're gonna have a poor reputation, and no one's gonna work with you. That kind of goes back into that initiative and selfless service and integrity. You're going to build up your reputation if you display these qualities on a daily basis. Uh, professionalism. I've heard it defined. As a practice, the dedication and devotion to your craft. So you have to really want to be this and take a lot of your time to get good at this job. And it kind of one of the things that I've always, even outside my military career, is Tecumseh's Way of the Warrior. Excuse me. Tecumseh's Way of the Warrior. Part of that poem is seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. And I think if you can cling to phrases such as that, I think you're going to be a really great medic if you're not already. Comprehensive operational medicine. Here's the meat and potatoes of this presentation. We have pre-mission planning, team health, education, peri-mission medical support, and post-mission team support. So probably I think the most important aspect of being a operational medic is the pre-mission planning. So you must be able to conduct planning before the mission begins, and this includes any threats to your team, and these can be physical threats, uh, you know, bad guys shooting at you guys, or maybe getting kidnapped if you're in certain parts of the world. Environmental threats, making sure you're not drinking, that you are drinking from approved water sources, eating food that's not going to give you worms. things like that. Obviously, when you get into hot environments or cold environments, when we need to dress for success in those environments as well. And so you as a medic, you're going to look at these environments and write a list of all these threats and try to uh, develop a mitigation list on how you're going to prepare for each of those threats. I do have a specific lecture specific to operation planning for medical emergencies. This is a pretty expansive topic in of itself. I'll kind of go into it a little bit more here in this presentation, but this is definitely a longer conversation with pre-mission planning. Team health. Most of your work for the team health should come from pre-mission planning. Whereas you took your risk assessment and made sure that you had all the meds, preventive measures with you when you deployed. There may be places where, like when I deployed to Eastern Europe, we pretty much had everything that we needed there. We weren't going to be too worried about not having certain things. We weren't really worried about the water being bad there. It's not as good as in the U.S. We can argue that water in the U.S. in some places is not fit for animals to drink, much less humans. But so where we go in the world, we need to just make sure that we're ready to deal with those threats. Um, uh, Make sure you follow up with your people at for any of their medical needs as the deployment progresses. As I got older, the teams that I deployed with became older as well. So the last team I deployed with, our average age was in their upper 30s, and we had guys that were well into their 50s, taking blood pressure medications and cholesterol medications and all kinds of things. So it's not really something you see when you're a younger medic. But making sure your guys have plenty of meds for the deployment, at least like a 90-day supply. If you're going to be there for a few months, I would try to take as much as I can for the entire deployment plus some, because you don't know if you're going to get stuck there longer than what you planned initially. So includes knowing. So that all that being said, you need to know the medical histories and the medications and supplements each of your people are taking, and just ensuring that they're doing well in the environment in which you're working. So, certain people on certain medications don't do so well in the heat, or certain medications may make you a little more prone to frostbite and hypothermia. So, it's just important for you to know that as the medic, and that's team health. So education wise, I think next to pre-mission planning, education is probably the most important thing of or aspect of your job as an operation medic. You need to take time to make sure to educate your people about the risk that you identified from your medical intelligence gathering and pre-mission planning, and how to mitigate those risks. You need to make sure that each one of your team members know the basic first aid and some advanced concepts such as patient monitoring. You may find yourself in a remote or an austere environment, and you're not able to evacuate, a casualty or a sick patient immediately, for the first 24 or 36 hours. You may not be able to, you're not going to be able to stay awake all that time, so you need to make sure you train your guys to do some of the basic stuff that you would do so you can get some sleep. You may also be the one who's injured. So it would be in your best interest to teach your team as much as they will tolerate when it comes to medical skills. And in my experience, I haven't had anyone uh, dislike doing the training. They just dislike the amount of training I wanted to throw at them. But you'll just have to kind of titrate to effect with your team. Peri-mission support. This is the easiest thing. You're just doing your job as a medic, kind of what you're taught in school and the medicine you practiced over the years. So just doing the right thing at the right time. Um, Post mission team support. Once the mission ends, you should ensure that your people are getting the treatment they need for any issues they incurred while on mission. I had a guy a while back get hit in the head really hard while we were doing some sports, and I still keep in touch with that guy to make sure he's getting the right stuff he needs for that head injury. And I was part of the this is a military operation, so I was part of the team that made sure his stuff got put into the system. So, I followed up with him specifically on that to make sure things got documented correctly so you can get the appropriate medical care down the road. So you may not be there. So that being said, you may not be their provider, after the mission, but you can be a good patient advocate for them and pointing them in the right direction for ongoing care. The other thing I'll talk about is critical incident stress management. So if you guys do encounter an incident where something pretty significant happened, maybe one of your team members was severely injured or was unfortunately killed, or you encountered some civilians on the battlefield who were injured pretty bad, or just anywhere, like when I was in Africa, you came across pretty sick and dying people. And there's really not a whole lot you could do for them with the resources that you have. So I just had a backpack on and I was just traveling. So it's not like I could whip everything out and help them out with the best of. I was able to do some things and point them in the right direction. But that's for some people. I mean, for me, it was difficult to deal with that kind of situation. But I feel like I was largely prepared to deal with that. Some people may not, and they may have some psychological issues after that. And so you're in a very good position to help them get the help that they need after the mission. So this comprehensive operational medicine, I got the idea while I was doing my grad school degree in Homeland Security, and we talked a lot about comprehensive emergency management. Mitigation, planning, preparing, responding, recovering. That's the emergency management cycle that FEMA uses. Um, so, as you can see, planning, mitigation, planning, preparation. That's all going to be back in your pre-mission planning. And depending on how well you planned and prepared, is how well you're going to respond. And if you responded well to the incident, you're probably going to recover much better from the incident. So just a little blurb on that. It's kind of where I got some of my inspiration from this. Just going into a little bit more detail, with pre-mission planning. So part of pre-mission planning is being a liaison. So being a liaison, you're gonna be pretty busy. To be a good liaison, you must have good relations and build good relationships with every agency in the region you're gonna be dealing with. So, whenever I went to Afghanistan, I made sure to have phone numbers from local NGOs that might be able to support us and our team where we were going to be at. Also had the Department of State numbers. Some of the protective security agencies in the area had some of their phone numbers as well, just so I could call on them, if we got into a bind. The more people the better prepared you're going to be for any kind of crazy incident. Um, you know, I'd always show up for training. If I knew these agencies were doing any kind of training, I would always show up and offer to help out with the training. This is you being a medic, providing training is a sure way to get into an agency, build it and build relationships. If you're, a tactical medic on the civilian side, going and doing write outs with agencies, your local sheriff's department, police departments, doing write outs with them and getting a chance to shake hands with as many officers as you can is going to help you out. It's going to go a long way to help out with, dealing with major incidents. Throughout this process, you're going to need to know where all your assets are in the region, their capabilities and limitations, and where's the closest places you can land a helo. What helo agencies are in the region. What EMS transport agency you're going to use. There's in a lot of places there's a bunch of different, and they the main EMS agency that's usually first up may be completely busy, and a different EMS transport agency is going to show up to support you. You just need to know about that in the case that does happen. What kind of personnel are they going to have? That's really important because different EMS agencies may have different protocols. Their medical director may be different. So, in my local area, One medical director is highly aggressive with intubation, and you're able to intubate in the field and do all kinds of stuff. Whereas another one doesn't want you to do any of that advanced airway management. They have a different idea of the need for that in the field. So, and then what is the level of experience and training of those personnel? When I was up in Utah and doing my medical assessment up there, I found that one of the agencies that would come out, there's a chance I was going to have two EMT basics on that ambulance. Believe me, I'll take it whenever they show up. But it's really good to know that if you have pretty significant incident, if you know that that patient's going to be intubated or needs to be intubated, then it would be in your best interest to know if you're going to have a BLS or ALS agency coming out via ambulance, and maybe advocating for a helicopter to be sent out to your location as soon as possible, or a supervisor would know to jump on with those EMTs, and maybe that supervisor is able to intubate. So team health, kind of go into a little bit more detail here. So medical history, things I collect. I collect blood type. If they've had any kind of incidences of a heat or cold injury, as well as any kind of chronic disease that may affect treatment along the way. Any physical, emotional limitation of the team members. You should know how well each of your guys, score in the PT test, or how what kind of physical weaknesses they have. Um, as you get to know your guys, you will get to know kind of where they're emotionally weak. Some people just don't do so well under certain situations. And the more you train with your team beforehand, the better you're going to know how everybody's going to react under duress in the operational environment. Now, the last piece is it's the most important. As important as most individuals in the field are not quick to say what they're weak in. So, we have to figure it out, and keep an eye on it and be ready to offer support when necessary. Preventive med or PMed, uh, it's a vital aspect of the mission. I think it gets overlooked a lot. It's not the most sexy thing when it comes to being an operational or tactical medic. So most casualties in war, from dating thousands of years ago, come from what the military calls disease and non-battle injury. These are diarrheal diseases, malaria. Not common findings here in the U.S., but they are common afflictions uh, of you know people in the third world and whatnot. So Africa, the Middle East, even the developed areas of the Middle East, they do have a high incidence of those diseases that actually cause death in a lot of cases. Um, more than likely, you're going out with these operational teams. That's probably going to be more than likely it's going to be people that have are better fit. So they like to stay fit. They work out. They go run. Things you're probably going to be worried about there, or concerned with, or ready to prepared to deal with, are sprained ankles, broken wrists, sunburns, dehydration, heat, cold related illnesses. You know, if you mess this part up, you could very well see the mission fail. So if you're not, some things may cause the mission to fail no matter what. But like a sprained ankle, if you knew how to tape up that ankle correctly, you may keep that person operational and a good part of the team. So that's preventive medicine, very important aspect. Education, so as I kind of talked about it earlier, preventive medicine training, some safety things, self-aid buddy aid training, depression, suicide awareness, things like that. You need to know. Um, I guess actually part of teaching, you have to know how to be a good teacher too. So, if you haven't done a lot of education in the past, it might do you a good to go to some type of instructional skills course. Most states have an instructional skills course for EMS, and they also have them for law enforcement. So you can actually go get an extra certification to do training for those agencies on top of getting some formal education on how to teach adults. The peri-mission support. If something does go down, you're the medical incident commander. Your team leader is probably going to be looking to you to make some of the basic medical decisions. Your medical decisions are going to determine the tactical situation in certain cases. Just be ready to make some good decisions. And you're not going to make good decisions if you don't have a good plan. So going back to that pre-mission planning is hugely important. You are the interagency liaison as well. So again, going back into pre-mission planning, going back and making sure those relationships that you have are strong with other departments, adjacent units, and whatnot is going to go a long way to help you out with providing care under duress here. You're the primary care provider for those who are injured on the scene. If you're the only medic there, everybody's will be looking to you, and it'll help you out a lot if you took time to train your people to do some basic things like tourniquets and wound packing and basic airway maneuvers and whatnot. So it will kind of take some kind of cognitively offload some of those tasks for you to be able to make good medical decisions for your team. So you must monitor your personnel for operational stress injury and environmental injuries. While you're on mission, if again you guys are seeing some pretty crazy stuff, you need to make sure that you're watching out for your guys. You may be the only one that is cognizant of these things. So everybody else is more worried about accomplishing the mission and whatnot. And they're not really watching out for heat injuries. So it's important that you're there for that. So the operator, if there's several models, where the medical is utilized. I've been in teams where I was just another member of the team, until I was ready and until I was needed. Breaking away only when it made sense to provide medical care. If you're on a team where the mission is we're going to go in and get bad guy, or we're doing a patrol looking for bad guys, you're just another shooter until it's time to become a medic, and hopefully that's not you don't need that. I've also been on teams where I was not allowed to be in the stack, the squad leader's like, no doc, you're going to be over here. You're going to be hanging out inside this armored vehicle while we do this thing, and if we need you, we're going to come back and get you. And there's there's always drawbacks and strengths for everything. So if you're out of the way, there's a good chance you're not going to get killed. If your team goes into a house and there's a secondary explosion or whatnot from a meth lab, or if there's an intentional device that has been planted, if you went in with the team, you're also going to be injured. Or if somebody, you're overseas, someone has a PKM, a situation that did occur. There's a PKM up on the second floor of a building, and the enemy knew that the team was coming beforehand. They had time to set up, and as soon as the team got on scene, the PKM just let loose on the team when they got to a tactically vulnerable area, and everybody in that team got hit by the PKM. So luckily the medic wasn't in that stack, but if the medic was there right on the rear end, the medic might have been also injured as well. So just something to consider, while you're working with your team. I feel, not that I'm afraid of being in combat or being shot at. I feel like this last model makes the most tactical sense, whereas the medic is in a safe spot if you guys are doing something kinetic. Having the medic on ground, your guys are likely going to take more risk and being more aggressive, meaning that they will likely win the fight, but with becoming injured as a consequence. In the Army, we always say the medic is a force multiplier. People are more confident, and they say we'll take more chances and taking the objective if there's a medic there to treat them. Your guys will not worry about being injured if you're there, so they will just do their job. Lastly, if the medic does get shot or killed during all the HOA stuff, who's going to provide medical support? Hopefully, you trained your guys up and they can do some basic stuff for you. Um, but there's going to be a time in the near future where breaching teams will need to be more watchful for the vehicle operated or victim operated, victim operated IEDs that's going to trigger as the team goes through the structure. If the medic's in the stack, there's a chance that you're going to go down too. So just some things to consider. Post mission support. All right, so I talked I briefly hit up on critical incident stress management. I definitely recommend you go get some training on that. The International Fellowship of Chaplains does some really great training on those courses, and has some really good courses in that. Um, the operational medic should be SISM training, for peer-to-peer support after an action. This is an aspect that kind of gets forgotten a lot, and it's kind of like the least sexy aspect of the job. But it can reverse or it can result in irreversible damage to your brain, resulting in a cumulative injury. It is similar to TBIs. TBIs are cumulative. So, and I think we call it PTSD. When you start having more issues from all the stress that you've been under, and you as the operation medic, you can provide specific support and prevent that kind of stuff. AER is a pretty important aspect of our job, as we're never going to get better unless we take the time to analyze what happened and how we can learn from what went right and wrong. For you, be very honest with yourself on how you could do better. Ask your team on how you could do better, and apply those lessons. Concluding, so your job as a medic is not always clearly identified by your team, your supervisors, or your company. They may expect very little from you. They just want you to show up whenever a medic's needed. But the most important task you'll complete as a team medic will be pre-planning and being there when you're needed. So if you want to be a valuable asset to your team, think about this comprehensive operational medicine and see how you can apply it to your day-to-day operational skill set. If you have any questions or would like to schedule some specific training, you can reach me through Haven Defense website, and the website is here on the page as well. Thank you for your attention. Have a great day.